get your reference there. It was discovered that the man was signing for the deaf for the 4-hour ceremony and didn't know a word of sign language. He was waving his arms, he was making gestures for the whole time, and all the deaf people were looking at him and wondering, what in the world is he saying? They couldn't make out anything that was being said. Afterwards, it was revealed that the man had mental problems, that he had a history of mental illness. And as a matter of fact, he had quite an extensive criminal record as well. For the last several years, he's been arrested for rape, he's been arrested for theft, for assault, he's been arrested for attempted murder, and for murder. He's been in court numerous times, and as far as anybody's been able to tell, he's never done any real prison time for all the offenses that he's been brought up on, because every time that he stands before a judge, someone makes the defense that he is mentally ill, and they let him off with that. So now imagine this. Here we have this gathering of world leaders, people from the exalted positions from all over the world that are gathered together in this place, and the man standing up on the platform with them, just a few feet away from where they're at, this man who's making these wild gestures, is a man with a long history of violent criminal activity, within easy reach of the world leaders, including our own president. That just doesn't happen. I want to tell you right now, something like that just does not happen. Anytime our president makes an appearance anywhere, the Secret Service goes before him and makes sure that they know absolutely everyone that's going to be in close proximity with him. They know exactly what situations he's going to be encountering. The only way that they can protect him is to know everything about his environment for the time that he's going to be in appearance. He doesn't make an appearance anywhere where someone is this far out of control. I think about all that preparation that goes into someone arriving somewhere, and ask the question, how could something like this happen? How could it be that a man with this kind of criminal record would be allowed anywhere near the president? What fell down on the preparation for his visit? Was there as much preparation as there should have been for his visit? Sometimes we wonder whether the preparation has really been done for something that wrong to have taken place. Think about dignitaries visiting. It seems that they're unprepared, and we look back to Bethlehem when Jesus made his entrance. And we think if ever a time was that obviously the preparation work hadn't been done, it was when Jesus came into the world. After all, they couldn't even find a room for him. He had to end up being born in a stable because it was the only place that they could keep the weather off them. It doesn't sound like much of any advanced work had been done for Jesus to make his entrance into this world. Here Jesus is among us. He came from the highest courts of heaven. He is the most exalted of the exalted. He is far higher than any human presence that's ever walked the earth. And there's no preparation done for him to come. Well, I want to tell you this morning that his appearance was not a random event. The place, the time, everything about what took place in history, in that history-changing event, had been carefully planned out for centuries. And it happened according to the plan. It happened just the way it was supposed to. The fact that such preparation had been made is evident in the fact that we can go back in the Old Testament and look about all the prophecies of Jesus coming that existed hundreds and some even thousands of years before Jesus walked on this earth. Things were said about what would happen when he appeared that took place exactly as he said it would. Exactly as his word had proclaimed hundreds and even thousands of years before his arrival. Yes, it was carefully planned. This morning we have an instance like that of prophecy and its fulfillment as our text this morning. We have actually two passages for our text. We have the passage from Isaiah, the prophecy, and the passage from Ephesians, which is the fulfillment. In Isaiah chapter 60, verse 1, these words Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. And then from the book of Ephesians chapter 5, verse 14, this is why it is said, wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. I want you to see in those passages this morning, your light has come. When we gather together for our Christmas gatherings, when we celebrate the coming of Christ in this world, it is the coming of the light into the world that we're celebrating. In the appropriate time, Jesus came. At the exact right moment in human history, Jesus appeared. Our texts have a common theme, and yet they're written in vastly different times and circumstances. The passage we have from Isaiah was written some 750 years before the passage in Ephesians. More than 700 years before the coming of Christ, Isaiah was talking about him in these terms. And the book of Ephesians confirms the fulfillment of this prophecy. God had intended centuries before the appearance of Christ that he should come in the very way that he did. At the exact right time for his appearance, Jesus came. And he came as a light. His coming is depicted in both these passages as a rising sun, as the dawning light that is emerging on the scene. The world was in darkness. Death shrouded the world with darkness through the influence of sin. Man's state was hopeless, and it was in despair that he lived his life. Man's sin had made the equation very simple. You were born into a harsh world filled with trials and sorrows. Each day's existence was managed by the sweat of your brow. And after a brief, harsh experience on this earth, you were claimed by death. Psalm 103, verses 15 and 16 puts it this way. As for man, his days are like grass. As a flower of the field, so he flourishes. When the wind has passed over it, it is no more, and its place acknowledges it no longer. Can you imagine anything darker than that? The idea that we're born into a world that's so filled with sin that our days here are often covered with misery, and then we die. That's not much to say for existence. An existence that had been made meaningless by the corruption of sin. We lived in a world where it was always night and never morning. We lived in a world where the darkness choked us. It made it hard for us to breathe. But Jesus came as the dawn to dispel the darkness. The birth that we celebrate is a promise of the end of the reign of darkness. With the birth of Jesus Christ, we have light piercing the darkness, and the darkness rolling back in man's experience. To paraphrase Shakespeare, but soft, what light through yonder window breaks? It is the east, and Jesus is the sun. Arise, fair sun. Of course, you know that's not the words that Shakespeare used there. Shakespeare saw the romantic love of a young Juliet as the answer to man's needs. The light emerging into the darkness of poor, ill-fated Romeo's life, you know, it was romantic love that offered him hope in the middle of hopelessness. But romantic love is but a candle in the darkness. Romantic love can't dispel the darkness of sin. Only Jesus can replace the darkness with light. Only his coming offers up the hope of a brand new day. The other thing I want you to see in our text this morning is this. We need to rise and shine. We need to respond to the emergence of a new day. A new day has come. That's what we're celebrating with Christmas. And we need to be changed. We need to be transformed by the light that has emerged to dispel the darkness. Growing up on a farm, my dad and I often got up before the dawn. We had to milk the cows. And after the cows had been milked, we'd come in as the dawn had already broken and started straining the milk to be able to put it out in the cans for the dairy to pick up and to save back some for our family. It was about that time my mom would get up, And her first chore was always the same. She'd go up to the stairway, upstairs, open the door, and shout up the stairs. She'd shout the same words time after time. Get up, the sun's awake. Rise and shine. Now, I can remember those words to this day. Get up, the sun's awake. Rise and shine. Unless you're working the graveyard shift, the coming of a new day with the light signals the time to get up and get started on that day. It signals the time when the day has begun and we're around the things that we need to do for the day. Now notice the words in the two passages that make up our text this morning. They indicate that the coming of the morning light by Jesus' advent is to produce an appropriate response on our part. In the passage we have from Isaiah, we see those words, arise, shine, for your light has come. And in the passage from the book of Ephesians, wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you. The coming of Christ is not to leave us unchanged. It might be familiar. We might have regular family traditions that we passed on through the years, ways that we celebrate, a special star or angel that goes on the top of the tree, a way that we bring the presents in, a way that we distribute presents on a Christmas morning. It might have a traditional meal. It might have a gathering of several families together in your home. Regardless of how you celebrate it, the celebration of Christmas, the event that we're celebrating, is not to leave us unchanged. We're not to be like those who greet the rising sun by pulling up the blankets over their heads so that they might return to darkness and to their slumbers. I know a lot of you may be guilty of that morning after morning. That's not the way that we're to greet the rising sun, who is Jesus Christ. We're not to greet him by trying to remain in the darkness, by trying to remain asleep. All of us who acknowledge Jesus as Lord must live as creatures of the day, not of the night. Our lives are to acknowledge him in all that we say and in all that we do. John chapter 9, verse 4 says this, we must work the works of him who sent me as long as it is day. Night is coming when no one can work. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verses 4 through 8. But you, brethren, are not in darkness, that the day would overtake you like a thief. For you are all sons of light and sons of day. We are not of night nor darkness. So then let us not sleep as others do, but let us be alert and sober. For those who sleep do their sleeping at night, and those who get drunk at night. But since we are of the day, let us be sober, having put on the breastplate of faith and love, and as a helmet the hope of salvation. Romans chapter 13, verses 11 through 13 continues that same theme. Do this, knowing the time that it is already the hour for you to awaken from sleep. For now salvation is nearer to us than when we believed. The night is almost gone and the day is near. Therefore let us lay aside all the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light. Let us behave properly as in the day, not in carousing and drunkenness, not in sexual promiscuity and sensuality, not in strife and jealousy. We're to be transformed. We're to be a different nature than those people who don't know of Christ's coming, or who only celebrate it as a holiday and not a real life event in their lives. Light has emerged and we're to be creatures of the light. We're to be living according to light. We're supposed to be arming ourselves with the armor of light. We're supposed to be living and breathing and speaking light. Christ's coming is not about a once-a-year celebration. It's about the fundamental transformation of our lives. Acts chapter 17, verse 28, the very beginning of that verse says this, for in him we live and move and exist. I like some of the older translations of that passage which says, in him we live and move and have our being. But how we translate it, it's the same thing. We who have seen the light come to be participants in the light. We become to be filled with light and radiating light from our lives. To realize who he is, who has come into the world, who we're celebrating year after year, means that we can never be the same again. There's a transformation which has taken place. In conclusion this morning, a man bought his wife a beautiful diamond ring for Christmas. He was showing it off to a friend. Look how beautiful this ring is. I'm going to give her for Christmas. Friend says, yeah, but I thought she had asked you for a four-wheel drive vehicle for Christmas. To which the man said, she did. But where in the world was I going to find a fake Jeep? There should be nothing fake about our Christmas celebration. It shouldn't be a pageant that we put on once a year. It should be talking about real transformation that's come into our life. Christ's coming demands that we be changed, not just that we celebrate what was done long ago. It's not just about a baby in a manger years ago. It's about the light dispelling the darkness of our world. He wants us to worship him in truth and not symbolically, not just with lights and evergreen boughs and with Christmas carols sung. He wants the transformation of the heart. Kirkpatrick, I don't know why I stumbled over that name, Kirkpatrick once remarked, anyone who thinks Christmas doesn't last all year just doesn't have a MasterCard. That's not the year-long impression I want Christmas to make on you. The knowledge of the birth of our Lord needs to transform us fundamentally. And as we acknowledge with our Christmas celebration that Christ has come, let us be unwilling to live in the darkness, come out and into his light. And this morning, if you want to make that fundamental transformation in your life, if you'd like to claim Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior for the first time and emerge into the brightness of his light, or if you've lost track somehow and slipped back into the darkness, slip back into your slumbers again, we want to give you the opportunity this morning to renew your commitment to him. Regardless of the decision you need to make, we invite you to come forward as we stand and as we sing our hymn of invitation, whosoever will. Voices in celebration of the new dawning in this world.